If we want to know if you're a good mate, guess who we got to ask? Your mate. Now, if they ain't bragging on you, bless your soul. All I want you to realize is that we have a tendency to measure others by our own standards. And the danger that Paul alludes to is the danger of somehow getting to a place where you're taking credit for what's not yours to take credit for. Don't be stealing from other folks. Anything. Ideas. You have a member of the church leave something on a pew. Don't pick it up as an answer to prayer. I was watching this there's a guy at the airport in New Mexico. He landed and he was just, they showed the camera, and the cameras are everywhere in the airport. So he got his stuff out of his little cubicle going through the machine, and in front of him, the lady in front of him had left a Rolex watch. She grabbed the stuff and left the watch. So he got his things and he was walking away. He looked over there and he grabbed the watch and put it in his pocket and left. So they found him. They traced him down. And they asked him, they arrested him. They said, where'd you get that watch from? He had the watch on. The police went to the door. He had the watch on. He said, where'd you get that watch from? He said, God gave me this watch. I was at the airport and I looked up there. It was there. It was a gift from God. No, God didn't steal nothing for you. Whatever you have should be something you honestly got. Some folks lose their job, and it's a shame when a Christian loses their job for stealing. You know, you can steal time on the job too. So some of y'all spend too much time in the bathroom on the job. Amen. Falling asleep, not coming out of time. Sheila, you got to stay in the class with the kids. The point is that Paul said there ought to be anything that you have. Understand that God has put you there. He's planted you in that job. He's planted you in that family. And whatever God gives you, take advantage of what you have. But don't be trying to get something that's not yours. Be honest with your dealings with all people. He suggests the idea. Number one, don't brag on yourself. Let others talk good about you. Secondarily, make sure that whatever you do, whatever you have, whatever you project, make sure it's yours. Amen. Well, tell somebody, don't say you all that. Don't take credit for what's not yours.
Don't take credit for what's not yours.
And tell them, be thankful. No, do the work and be thankful for what God has given you.
Do the work and be thankful for the work God has given you.
Look at this text one last time. He keeps saying the word sphere inside the passage, but also the word for field is suggested inside some other versions. But hear what he says here. He says, he talks about the sense of your own field, verse number 13. We, however, will not boast beyond measure, but within the limits of the field which God appointed us. I have an appointed area that God has given me. We all have appointed areas. The hardest thing I think in life for some folks to do is to stay in their lane, to stay in their place, just do the job that God has called you to do. Paul says that God has given me a field to work in. If you're part of the family of God, there's an area He wants you to work in. Don't spend all your time trying to get out your area. We're blessed. I want to say a word of appreciation for the eldership that we have. Amen. You don't know how many hours they have been battling over the last years. One, just trying to make sure we identify all the folks who are committed to be part of this family. You know, some folk in Indy got a citywide membership. So they had KT this Sunday, and they over there that Sunday, and you know they got to make their rounds, and about 2 months, 3 months later, hey, I'm back. But when I was coming up, that's country stuff. My grandmother's brother name was, now this is an old country. They call him Fagay, but that has nothing to do with the old terminology. That's what they just the term they had, a country term from Louisiana. You know about all this stuff. He was a hobo. So he would jump the train. and leave town. Ride all over the place. He showed back up maybe 3 or 4 months later. Hey, I'm home. He come back in, he eat at the house, he tell his stories, all his travels, and then he stay for maybe about a few weeks, about a month or 2, and then he get a conflict with somebody, or I'm going back on. He kicked his guitar and got back on the road again. He just went back and forth. Never got stable. Never did grow. Never got solid. Maybe you can't be strong and you know have never sit down nowhere. The leadership has been spending time. Number one, what they're trying to do is, first thing they're trying to do is narrow down who here. Next Sunday, we're taking pictures so we can know. If your picture gets taken and we got your name and number, that means we expect you to be a part of our family. They ain't got time to go hunting for. Their job is not to be detectives. Now, when was the last time that you saw this sister? Okay, this was 1999. She came through once in 2005, and we saw her again in 2009. I saw her kids 2011 and 2012, and I heard that she's circling back in the state of Indiana somewhere. But they can't hunt you down. They're spending energy and time, number one, just trying to solidify our numbers, because we don't need nobody with a citywide membership. If you're a part of this family, we ought to know to find you here. I don't know about you, I had kids at home. I even had foster kids. When we had foster kids at the home, living in Alabama, had 2 foster boys at home. I tell you what, when we got ready to eat, they better all be at the table. I don't expect to walk inside the house. I got 8, 9-year-old kids. Well, where's Jason? Where's Michael? We don't know where. They decided they ain't going to eat. They decided they're going to sit at this table. If you're a part of this family, there is an expectation of finding you here. Their job is to help you to grow stronger. It shouldn't require also dragging you down here. And we got some members, when you show them, we want to have a chain to keep you in the building. There's a field that God has given you. There's an area that you should be working in. And the reality is that we ought not to be trying to hunt you. They spend energy and time just trying to get the numbers together. Now, who's here, who's not? Because some folk have turned a ghost around here. I want to commend them because they're concerned about trying to help every member grow. But do you understand that we are at war? Could you imagine that you're at war? And what are you doing? When I was coming up, back in the 80s, before the 80s, back in the Bruce Lee. You know who Bruce Lee was?
Yeah.
Bruce Lee showed up on the scene. He had these nunchucks, you know. And you know, I was watching the movies with other people, everybody else back in the day. That stuff looked so easy. And so some kids brought them things. We got in the neighborhood. They bring them out. A guy, y'all got me some lunches. What? You know, so you know, look at the movie, man. Like, so I took one. So, okay, well, how you know, just look, I guess all you gotta do is do it on the, and I got the underarm part. Yeah. Then I messed up with the. That takes straight in. You can't go to war and don't know how to use your weapon. And we don't have, even if you had a gun to use, and our work is not based on using guns, but if you did, you gotta spend some time practicing. We don't have a gun, we got a sword. Do you know what happens if you play around with a sword? Oh. How you gonna be a good fighter and have no idea how these work? If you don't come to class, how you gonna grow? I just don't feel like coming to class. I don't feel like, sometimes I just ain't feeling it, man. I mean, I come, you know what I gotta go through? It takes everything I get to get here at 11 o'clock. See, you do what you want to do. I think most of y'all who still working ain't got to be working at 10. All right, most of y'all can work at 6. I see y'all out there fighting traffic 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Some of y'all ain't never been late to work. And ain't never been early to worship. What's important to you? See, you can't be a good soldier if you don't know how to use your weapon. That's what Bible classes are for. That for you to learn how to handle your weapon. We got in this church, we got all kinds. We got class on Monday night, we got class on Tuesday morning, we got class on Wednesday night, we got class coming back up on Thursday night. I mean, if you want to learn and grow, it's Sunday morning, you want to learn, there's all kind of chance to learn. If you don't know, then you don't want to know. Paul says that you got to be able to fight in the sphere or the field that God gives you. But you can't fight in the field you're given if you don't even know how to use your weapon. He has placed you into a place, and the dilemma is that every member of this congregation has an obligation to this leadership. You got an obligation to the elders, an obligation to the deacons, obligation to the preachers in this church. Amen. We got to know we can depend upon you. Amen. If there's a financial need, we can depend upon the church to handle that need. If there's a work that we're doing, we should be depend. We'd rather have 100 folk we can depend on than 600 folk that can't depend on none of them. I advocate this idea here, that if you can't depend on, if leadership says we want you to do anything and you can't trust them enough to follow their lead, then find the leadership you can trust and follow.